Hello, Intuitive Pool community. I am so excited about being on this podcast episode today. I have just been inspired to come on here with absolutely no forward thinking about what I'm going to actually be speaking through in terms of speaking through the points, because what I have been inspired to do is to move with the gratitude and the appreciation and the reverence for what I just spoke out in a one-on-one session. And what I just spoke out is the premise that pressure creates diamonds. Now, I'm so inspired to talk about this premise and to remind you that how does a diamond come about? It comes about through pressure and not breaking under the pressure through fear. The reason why I'm so inspired to talk to you about that is because just in the last little while, if you listen to the previous podcast episode, in my guidance, in my intuition, I have received a very, very, very clear directive that for some of us, that we are to fully step into the timeline of miracle frequency. And I'm not just talking about a little miracle over here and then we forget about the frequency of miracles and we fall back into story and we fall back into victimhood and we fall back into powerlessness, distrust, worry, fear. I'm not talking about a little miracle over there where we get this hit of an incredible transmutation and evolution and new state of being, and then we fall back into fear and we agree with fear and we fall back into our previous identity, in our previous patterns and programmings. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stepping into a timeline of the full embodiment of miracle frequency. And since I spoke that out, or since I received that, I should say, in October, and we are now the 5th of November, time has been doing crazy things with me lately, in that I have been receiving wisdom after wisdom after wisdom after wisdom that has come in a very short amount of time that maybe in the past would have taken months to come. And because we are talking about stepping into the full embodiment of miracle frequency, of course I'm going to come on here and remind you that in order for a diamond to become a diamond, it had to withstand extreme pressure and not break out of fear. A miracle, some people might think, oh, miracles are bestowed upon us and, they're this holy power outside of ourselves decides who is going to receive a miracle or not. When I talk about a miracle, I talk about it being much closer to home, much closer to home. In my 21 years of coaching and facilitating, in my 23 years of learning about the power of taking radical responsibility, of knowing that who I'm being is creating my reality, and therefore I have power, the power of awareness as to who I am being, subconsciously and unconsciously, that is creating my reality and giving me a perfect mirror of what is going on within me, all created through my programming, whether that programming has been catalyzed or seeded in this lifetime, or whether that programming has been catalyzed and seeded through the generations gone by, the power of awareness is an incredible thing because it gives us the ability not only to witness what is going on unconsciously and subconsciously that is creating the most perfect reflection of those belief systems in our reality, but that awareness, when held in the consciousness of love, is always creating a diamond. And the reason why I feel incredibly compelled to come onto the podcast today, completely unplanned, is because I have been in the presence today of people on a group call on Zoom who I had the pleasure and the honor and the privilege of being witness to them fully showing up in the whole of themselves, despite what their minds might have been saying to them, despite what their emotions, and sometimes those emotions were so overwhelming that I was watching that it was hard for them to speak. And yet they were so willing, despite their thoughts and feelings, despite how overwhelming it was to speak because of the emotion. They were so willing to show up on that call in every single part of what they were feeling and experiencing about themselves in that moment. And when we surrender ourselves, when we show up at that level fully and authentically and so real and so unkept, there's such a level of trust within that they're able to hold that pressure. They're able to hold that uncomfortability. They're able to hold that uncertainty as they don't even know where the conversation is going to go. But they have trust within themselves. Whether this is conscious or not, I don't know. But they have a sense of trust within themselves that they can hold the tension that is required in order to create a diamond. If you think about it, without the pressure that's required in order to create a diamond, the diamond does not become the diamond. The stone remains in its original form. And this is how evolution happens. Any moment of evolution, even if you think about nature, and you think about a fern unfurling, there's tension in the unraveling of that frond. Everything that is evolving involves a level of tension and pressure. Everything. So what if we made that tension and that pressure? What if we had a perception around that tension and that pressure that it's just part of evolution? Would we be so scared? Would we be so scared of the uncomfortability? Would we so resist? Would we so hold on to versions of ourselves of the past? Would we be so fearful to trust the process? To trust ourselves that we have the capacity to hold that pressure and that tension? Wouldn't it be amazing? Really, wouldn't it be amazing if we knew each time we felt tension or pressure that we could say to ourselves, we're a diamond in the making. This is part of the evolutionary process. This is part of the creative orientation. This is how creation creates stretch marks, growing pains, sometimes tears. They're part of nature. They're part of the evolutionary process. And we resist the evolutionary process When instead of holding the pressure and holding the tension, and that doesn't mean that we don't hurt from an emotional perspective. It doesn't mean that we don't have fear and we don't have worry and that we're not scared. It doesn't mean that we're not scared. It doesn't mean that we're not afraid. But we don't crack in that fear. We don't crack when it feels so uncomfortable. We don't crack when we're full of worry. We keep holding the pressure and the tension and trusting that as long as we continue taking radical responsibility for bringing wherever our fears are back to love, and this is part of the evolutionary process, moment by moment by moment, and as long as we surrender into the knowing that there is a consciousness, a field of intelligence that is absolutely pristinely holding us like a matrix that knows that this piece will go after this piece and that piece will go after that piece. And that person over there is going to say that thing. And this person over here is going to say this thing. And me over here is going to have this thought. And me over there is going to make that connection. And me over there is going to see all of how everything is connected. And how me over there, when I see how everything is connected, I start to see how it was all perfect. And then I'll be in reverence to how each thought, each feeling, each conversation, each moment of contraction, each fear, each worry, each joy, each excitement, each inspiration, how all of it was the tension that was required for my evolution. And you see, when we talk about tension and pressure that's required to become the diamond, we are talking about a miracle in the making. A Course in Miracles defines a miracle as a shift in perception from fear to love. When we have a shift in perception from, say, unworthiness, from an identity of unworthiness, from an identity of not mattering, from an identity of being powerless or being full of chaos and being the victim, from an identity of being unwell, with sickness and illness, from an identity of being disconnected in relationship, from an identity of failure and shame. When we hold the pressure and we hold the tension and we trust the process, and we, whether we believe it or not, or whether you believe it or not, at least consider that there might be a greater consciousness that has orchestrated all of this for your soul in this human form to experience this evolution. When there's that level of trust, when there's that level of faith, when there's that level of surrender, when there's that level of presence. Without presence, there is nothing. There is only the same. With that level of presence, then we become the diamond. We become the next version of ourselves in this process of becoming. It is all a process of becoming, all of it. Just like the frond that unfurls and becomes a fern. It is all a process of becoming. And then one day that fern will die. And it will go back into the soil. And then it will be fed. The soil will be fed by all of the animal life and other plant life. And then it will refertilize itself. And then it might become a fig tree. And it might even become a fig tree in a totally different piece of land, because that bird might have come and carried a seed and brought it over to a totally different environment. We are all becoming. Every single living thing on this planet is all in the process of becoming. Pressure creates diamonds. Without the pressure, it remains a rock. Without the pressure, we have no evolution. So I hope that this episode allows you to be okay when you feel the pressure and the tension. And in the process of evolution, in miracle frequency, when we shift from fear to love, it does not exclude our humanity. A miracle does not exclude our humanity. In fact, for a miracle to occur, just like for a rock to become a diamond, we have to go through the portal of our humanity. We have to go through the portal of our feelings. We have to feel the pressure and the tension in order to become. Today, I facilitated the presence room. And this is the place where two people, because I decided to facilitate a second session of the presence room for this month, two people fully showed up in the all of them, in the all of themselves, as I said to you before. And to be in the presence of somebody else's presence when they are being in the all of them, when they're showing up from the all of them, whether that be showing up from the wisdom that they have been gaining and communicating and being witnessed in that wisdom, whether that be being witnessed in their own tension and their own pressure, whether that be being witnessed in the overwhelm of emotion that was challenging to speak out so much gratitude, whether that be in the presence of somebody's cracking open, whether that's be in the presence of someone's ability to see what the cracking open is in service to and where it's taking them to. Being in the power of someone's presence is, for me, heaven on earth. It is the reason why I created the presence room. Every session that I have, whether it be one-on-one or whether it be in a group environment, everything comes from presence. Everything. Without presence, there is no evolution. Without presence, there is no miracle frequency. Without presence, there are no diamonds. Without presence, there is only more of the same. There is only identification with fear-based belief systems. There is only identification with programming that is unconscious and subconscious. Without presence, there is only blame and judgment and powerlessness and victimhood and being the persecutor, trying to rescue yourself. Without presence, there is only drama. Sometimes you get out of the drama and then you get back in. Without presence, there is only vicious circles. There are only vicious circles without presence, which is why I created the presence room, where we, once a month, come together and we are in the power of our presence, and we are witnessed in the power of our presence in all of the kaleidoscope, all of the facets of our presence. As I said before, the messiness, the taking responsibility, the wisdom, the gratitude, the appreciation, the falling apart, the cracking open, the authenticity, the tenderness, the audacity, the fierceness, the leadership, all of it. The presence room. I'm letting you know about the presence room. It is a powerful place to come once a month to shift you into the power of your presence so that from the next month or over the next month, you are catalyzed from that one conversation of fully showing up in the power of your presence. Details are in the show notes. It's extremely accessible. I did that on purpose, so there are no excuses. I welcome you if you're pulled. If you're pulled by this conversation, if you're pulled into realness, if you're pulled into being in community and being witnessed in your own process of becoming, I welcome you into the presence room. P.S. I almost forgot. On the 13th and the 14th of November, I am delivering a free masterclass. It runs over 2 days. It's the Miracle Frequency Masterclass. Best to come live. There is a sequence to the 2 days. If you can't come live, that's okay. You will receive the replay. Details are in the show notes too. Now finally signing over and out. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.